back, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is an Academy Award and Grammy Award-winning filmmaker and journalist who has directed films like Say Anything, Jerry Maguire, and Almost Famous. Please welcome to The Late Show, Cameron Crowe. Nice to have you on. Everybody, I mean, a lot of people first got to know about your life from Almost Famous, which was autobiographical. But with your new memoir right here, The Uncool, okay, you're finally telling the fuller story here. Was that the plan the whole time, is to make a movie about your life and then 25 years later go, well, what I meant was this?
There's more.
Yes.
Well, I always kept everything. I'm a pack rat, so I have all my notebooks and all my everything from the time. And there came a time when I was working on a collection of my journalism, and I realized there was a story behind every big story that I'd done when I was much younger. And it grew into a story about my family and how music comes from how you grow up and who you know and how you were raised. And so it turned into a story of loving music and family and some of the great stories that I was unable to tell until now.
Well, you know, how your love of music is shaped by the people that you know. You knew some amazing people besides the people you grew up with. I'm just curious, why call it, I love the cover. I'll do that one more time here. Why call it The Uncool when it's full of some really cool stories? If you hanging out with the Allman Brothers and David Bowie and Fleetwood Mac and every other band.
It's true.
Of the 1970s.
Yeah.
So, what's The Uncool? Are you the uncool?
Well, a little bit. You know, my mom was a very kind of protective school teacher, counselor and stuff, and she really felt that like rock should not be in our family, shouldn't come in the home.
Bad influence?
Bad influence, promiscuous, you know, sex, drugs. This all would come in through the door and in the windows if you let that music play in the home. So it wasn't allowed. And so I felt a little bit uncool as a result of it.
Yeah.
And she also skipped me 3 grades in school. So I was younger than everybody else, and I was not a part of any real friend group. I was somebody who later found community in the musicians I would go to interview, because they too had kind of been, you know, outsiders. Yeah. And music kind of grabs you and says, there's a place in the world where people like you outsiders belong. So
why do you think music does that? Because I have some friends who've done that too.
Yeah.
I've gone into music, people I've known since we were kids.
Yeah.
And then they find a home in music. Comedy does that for people too. I'm curious, why does music do that for people? Because
it says, it's so personal sometimes, and it can be so, you know, specific about, I know your pain, I know who you are. And you hear this, and it makes you want to listen to a song like 50 times because you feel heard and known. And that's the greatest feeling, I think.
What was the first concert you ever went to?
Well, my mom, who was, of course, interested in anything academic, thought this little piece in the newspaper about a protest singer named Bob Dylan coming to the local gymnasium.
To the local gym?
Yeah, the local gym.
What town is this? I'm sorry?
This is Riverside, California.
Okay.
So it was 1964. I was 7. My sister was a little older, Cindy. And so she said, well, I'm going to take you to see this protest singer who's speaking about politics and important things. And it was Bob Dylan. And we sat on this cold gymnasium floor, and this guy kind of came out jauntily with, like, you know, loose Levi's and a big white shirt, and it was Bob Dylan. And he had just written Times They Are A-Changin'. And that was kind of an interesting thing that stayed with us always. Even though hard rock was later forbidden, there was this little pulse of, like, we'd seen this amazing show when we were young, and it was Dylan.
Well, I'm curious how you made the switch in your day from doing things like interviewing Chris Christopherson to then sitting in high school math class, because you're just a kid here.
It's true.
So how did that feel? Like, did you think, like, they don't even know the life I've got outside of this school?
Well, Stephen, I had talked my way into an interview with Chris Christopherson, and I was 15. And he was so kind. He sat outside in this red leatherette chair at a Mexican restaurant because they wouldn't let me into the bar area. And he was amazing. I asked him the first question. I said, like, you know, how do you feel? Do you feel lonely when you're on the road? And he stopped, and he looked off, and I started to panic and think, well, does he not like my question? Should I ask him something else? And I decided not to say anything. And then he started to talk. And he talked about loneliness, and he talked about the movies he loved, and he talked about how movies and music could come together to create this amazing thing, which ended up being something that would really speak to me later. And I realized the more I didn't speak, the more he enjoyed the conversation, which was a key to interviewing. So
he's having a really good conversation with his own memories.
yeah, he really thanked me for my silence,
Yeah.
And then later, I came back to English class, and I had a David Bowie record and stuff, and I played it in my class, and they fell asleep, basically. So I felt like, well, music is this place where I'm going to be understood, and that was the path.
Is it true that you got course credit for touring with Led Zeppelin?
I did. I did. And thank you for knowing that. I was supposed to be a lawyer. That was the family idea.
That was the goal?
That was the goal. So I had just kind of gotten out of high school, skipped a bunch of grades, and I was taking a journalism class. And I went to the teachers, I have an assignment from Rolling Stone magazine. They're giving me this chance to go on the road with Led Zeppelin. Can I get a class credit for doing that? And he said, sure. And could you get me into Rolling Stone? And so this was a ticket out, because I could just go to my mom and say, well, if my teacher is hitting on me for a job, I think it's cool to not go to college for a little bit. So I didn't finish, I must say, and ended up directing movies and having an incredible time doing that. And it was the night I had won the Oscar.
There with Jimmy Page right there.
That's Led Zeppelin.
So the night you won the Oscar.
A great Led Zeppelin story, I must say. But years later, having written Almost Famous, we won the Oscar for the screenplay. And it was sitting on the table, the Oscar, and my mom leaned forward and said, it's not too late to go to law school. So,
It's not, It's still not.
I'm thinking it's still not.
It's still not, yeah.
But,
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, let's pick a school and,
we'll go together.
Let's do it, yeah.
One thing I'm very excited, there's so much to talk to you about. The one thing I'm very excited about here is that you are working on a biopic for Joni Mitchell right there. You're working on this with Joni, I assume.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's amazing. She's such an inspiring person. So we've been working on it for about 4 years. We have regular meetings where I can ask her anything. And she speaks, with her heart about all kinds of stuff. It's a movie that will be not from a distance looking at somebody that, here's a portrait of somebody that we've never met. This is from her perspective, her life looking out, and she's kept everything. Yet another pack rat. She's kept all of her costumes, all of her clothes, all of her instruments. She's even still the landlady of her famous house in Laurel Canyon. So this is a really personal, wonderful kind of look at her life in music, and she's wonderful, and she actually has a message for you.
For me?
Yes. I spoke to her the other day, and I said that I was going to see you, and she said to give you this message. As a proud Stephen Colbert fan, I appreciate how you always stand your ground.
The Uncool is available now. Cameron Crowe, everybody. We'll be right back.